a lot of places you have to work filler that are odd. They're in odd shapes and odd places, and this is one of them for sure. I've got a flange right here on the door or on the cab, so I can't put my block in here and sand like this because I got a flange. So that's out. Basically, all I'm gonna be able to do is kind of go up and down like this. And this actually is too wide, but I should be using it as a paint paddle. What I should actually do is cut the paint paddle down, but I'm stubborn. I don't have one. So I'm going to try to do this first. I'm just using the edge to go in here. This is not a lot of filler, so it's not that much work to do it. I'm just sanding with the edge right here because I can't sand flat. And there's barely any filler here anyway. There's barely any filler here anyway. This is where I weld those. I had to weld the jam up when I moved that striker plate in. I had to weld up the hole. So I could get a grinder in here and grind this down, get it close. But I'm here. I'm doing it. It's working. I'm not really trying to win a race. Take a pretty good chance if I use the grinder of gouging it out and ruining it and have to re-wipe it. I sure don't want to do that. I don't have to. I'll just continue on with the slow and sure method. What is it? Slow and steady wins a race or something like that? Seeing this body filler flies around reminds me, I'm not wearing a dust mask. I'm not generating a lot of dust that's flying in my face. Now, somebody's going to fuss at me and tell me I should be wearing a mask, and I'm not going to argue with them. I'm trying to talk to the camera and yada yada yada. If I was running a machine and the stuff was all up in my face, yes, I'd put a mask on in a heartbeat. I've done it before, plenty of times. But what I'm doing here, it's not that much. I'm just not doing it. So if you want to fuss at me, fine, but whatever. So places like this, basically you just work it till you start to feather in, and then kind of see how it fits or feels, or you know what I'm trying to say. So I'm down right there. The weld I did was right there. That's the patch I put in. It doesn't need much filler at all to work it down. Now down here on the bottom side, I'm going to stand up and swap because I got to sand like this. You work in body filler, if you're not ready to put in some elbow grease, just turn around and go back. Because you've got to put in the elbow grease. See, it's starting to feather in now. I'm using my second hand to guide the block. That's all I'm doing that with for. A little bit of sideways action here. Again, I'm feathered in. If I keep going, I'm going to start digging a hole. This up here, that's a hand situation. I guess I can use this new piece of 36. So the old school way, take your sandpaper, fold it into thirds. Still works like a champ. And I take mine and curve. I have to curve it. I'll curve it. And you can use sandpaper like this as kind of a block, you know, straight. If you're kind of mindful of it. You got to be real careful because you'll dig the crap out of it with this 36. So all I'm doing here is knocking this out. Because I know it's really high. And once I get close, I'll gonna stop like that. Now I'll take the 80 grit and finish it out. Where is my 80 grit? So I've got 80 grit here, the same deal. Fold it into thirds. Work it down in there. Most of this, all I'm doing is taking the filler completely out. There's no dent up there. It doesn't need to be in there. And once I get to where it starts to feather, I'll be more careful, for sure. Now I'll take my 80 grit and work this in, or feather it. And again, the patch I welded is right there. It's only a small, minute amount of filler. So one, that tells you, I'm not trying to brag, that tells you how nice that patch welded in. There is a wave in here, but it's the factory wave of how this pillar fit. I'm not trying to take all that out. You don't need to. First, your striker's going to be sitting right here. So, like I said before, I'm not trying to take every factory wave and ripple out of this truck. I'm straightening it for sure. But places like this, for example, where there's already a factory ripple, I'm not trying to take that out. And I guarantee you, once I block this with primer a few times, it's going to be pretty damn straight anyway. Factory ripple or not. And kind of work that just a little bit, help it feather. And that little area is done, ready for primer. That wasn't so bad, was it? I got one more little spot. Let me turn the camera around while we're doing it. Might as well do it all. If I can get the camera back here. Hold on. Spot in this door jamb, kind of the same deal. Another hard spot to kind of get to. This time the block will fit though. So I'm just going to rough it out. Again, 36. I've already hit it with the cheese grater and knocked all the sticky off of it. So just going to sand it down with the block. Take my time. And I am kind of using the front edge again, because I don't want to nick up all this primer I just put on again, if I can avoid it. If I was standing flat, I'd be cutting all into here, and I don't want to do that. I could sand from the top down, which might work, so it gives me a little bit better plane the sand in. And you can see it's all starting to almost feather in now. Yeah, I like that better. There's a bit of a low spot, either low spot right there or filler's probably still a little high too. I believe that's a low spot in that jam in the 80 grit. And one thing I won't do is wipe a dent, is try to fill a dent into another dent and leave it. That I won't do, or ripple. If that winds up being a low spot there, I definitely will fix that. Yeah, that's a low spot. It ain't much of one, but it is a low spot. So it's just probably a natural little ripple in this jam. In fact, I can feel one right there too. Little low spot right there. So if I'm fixing this, I'm going to fix all of it. That's just how I roll. So all I'll do is just take a little bit of filler in here, and I'll wipe up under here too. Got a little ripple right there. Got a hole there. I'm not sure what that was for. I wonder if I should have welded that up. Since I got a white filler right here, I believe I'm gonna weld that hole up. Not sure what that was for. Well, anyway, so that's that. That's filler. 36 and 40 grit. I mean, 40 grit and 80 grit. Ready for primer. Everything with this area here is ready to put primer on, which I'm not going to do tonight. It's getting late. So I'll come out here tomorrow, and I may fix a couple more little areas here. I got to fix the jam over there. I want to go ahead and fix this now. So I got a few more areas to wipe and get ready to prime before I actually prime. I want to prime it all at once because this is that 2K primer. You got to mix it up and shoot it, or that stuff will go bad. If you got an hour pot life, if it's got an hour, you got to shoot that stuff up and use it, or it goes bad. All right, let me show the filler before I get primer on here and it's covered up forever. So on the firewall, I got filler right here. This is where I did some welding, and here. This was pinholes, a little bit of welding there, pinholes. Over here, I did not intend to wipe an area this big. I knew it was, a little wrinkled. All I wanted to do was hit the welds. Hold on. Hit the areas that I welded, kind of right here. And I knew once if I started wiping it, it was probably going to balloon, which it did. Because the panel had a bunch of ripples in through here in the low spot. So I wound up wiping that big of an area. That's one of those Pandora's boxes situations. You open it up and you wind up in a lot more than you bargained for, which I knew that was going to happen. So anyway, this area is wiped now. It should be nice and flat, or 90% flat. It's still got some ripples up here, but I wasn't going to fix the whole thing. As I mentioned before, that was never my intention. So that's the firewall. The dash you've seen. That's my patch. This was a little dent and a weld. That's some pinholes from rust and a weld. Little dent, and a weld. Some more pinholes from rust. This was pinholes, rust pinholes. I mean, they weren't rusted all the way through, just they were deep, but not all the way through. Pinholes, more pinholes. That's the spot where I had to weld up the patches. A little bit of filler there, a couple of welds, holes welded, and a couple of dents. And here, this is my my patch. This filler is not deep. My speaker pod thing I made. This filler is not deep. It's just there to smooth out the crease where the weld was. A little bit of filler on the bottom. Again, it's not deep. It's just there to smooth out the hammer blows and the ripples. That's my dash pod that my dash that I made a long time ago. Again, that filler is not deep. It's just a little bit there to smooth out the ripples. I could have blocked that with primer, but I had some extra filler on one of my filler wiping sessions, so I just went ahead and put it in there. I hate to waste that stuff. I don't have to, and it'll make blocking go faster. That filler is not deep at all. And then go around to the other side. Same deal in the middle. This is where I welded the holes up. I forgot I'd welded up more holes. There's a weld there and a weld there and this plate and a couple of hole here. So this is another one of those situations where I only intended to wipe a little bit here and a little bit here, and it wound up being the whole middle was a little bit wavy. So I wiped the whole thing. Again, the filler's not deep. It's just there to take those ripples out. The factory ripples in the sheet metal. My AC pod here, same deal. Just to smooth out that little valley. A little bit of filler down here. Not deep at all. This stuff is not built out of filler. It's just there to take out the wave, straighten it up. And I'll weld it up right there. So all this filler work you see, this stuff's not built up out of filler. It's just there to straighten it out. Blocking with primer, filler primer might have blocked out 70 or 80% of this. It wouldn't have blocked all this out. It had to have been a lot of heavy priming. Of course, it wouldn't have blocked out the speaker patch. It had to have been a lot of heavy priming, but most of this, the rest of this, would have blocked out with primer. But putting filler in there is just something a lot faster. Get it in there, get it wiped, and straighten it and get out. This speaker patch, you saw me working it. It feels good. A little dent and a weld here. So I am ready to spray some primer. I'm using 2K epoxy, not epoxy. 2K, they call it polyester primer from PPG. So I'm gonna get it mixed up and spray some primer. Yeehaw! All right. Okay, I got my primer sprayed last night. I was going to turn the camera on, and I got focused on what I was doing and completely forgot. So I'll try and shoot the camera some more when I'm priming again. I'll turn the camera on some more. So now it's block sanding time. Now, I've mentioned before several times, I've mentioned quite a few times I used to do body work years ago, so block sanding to me is not some huge, terrible ordeal. I mean, it's not fun. I wouldn't list it in the category of fun things to do, but it's not some horrible, awful thing. I mean, something that has to be done. There's a certain part of me that actually kind of likes it because it's just a slow, tedious process, and I like slow, tedious process stuff. So call me strange if you want to. It's methodical. It's rhythmic. It's methodical. It's rhythmic. It's just, I don't know. There's worse things to be doing. That's for damn sure. Anyhow, so what I'm going to do now is start block sanding. Obviously I've primed this spot. I wipe this spot. Got my dash primed. Up here, inside, which is kind of dark. I got lights I'll cut on. Basically all my body work on my dash is primed. In here, back there. I also have to finish blocking the roof. I body worked the roof many years ago and put at least one coat of primer on it. I think just one. There's still sand scratches showing, so I probably only blocked it once. I don't even remember if I blocked it once or twice. So I definitely have to block the roof. When I worked the cab a couple of years ago, I think I blocked the corners. I remember that for sure. I think the middle is not blocked, and probably under the window, because I can kind of look at it and see. This is not blocked, finished block, so. But everything else, even though there's not that much left, corners are blocked. The cowl corners are blocked. So on the cab itself, the biggest thing left to do blockwise is the roof. Blockwise is the roof and a lot of the back. So there's a fair amount of blocking, of course, the dash. And the dash is all this tedious blocking. That's just small, tedious stuff that just takes time. So there's a fair amount of blocking left to do. So anyway, I'm gonna set the camera up. I guess I'll put the fast forward thing on because block sanding is about boring to watch. There's no doubt. I probably won't. I don't know if I'll talk my way through it or not. It's just I'll probably just cut the camera on and cut on some music that I can't play on video because I get copyright strikes. So I'll probably just fast forward it and put some other music on later, the video. Anyway, I'm babbling, so let's get some sanding done. Just real quick, block sanding. You crisscross, you kind of an X. Now let me show you something that I already am noticing right here that I didn't realize at first. Whoops. This spot right here, I was going to use this block, and I still am going to use this block. Let me zoom out. I am zoomed out. But this dash has got crown to it. I'm exaggerating, but it's got crown to it. So see how the block is rolling and doesn't fit completely? Even here in the middle, it doesn't roll and fit completely. It almost does right here. So, like out here on this cow, it fits just about flat all the way up, at least up into here. So what I'm saying is, you sand with this block, you gotta watch how flat the block is. And I'm not really sanding, I'm just kind of going over it very, very lightly. See, the contact patch is all right there in the center. So this block is almost not right here. I'm going to start out with this one, and at some point I can almost guarantee you I will get this one out. But anyway, block sanding, you kind of crisscross. You very rarely want to sand like this. Number one, the edges of the paper will dig in. That's a huge no-no. You don't want to do that. You always kind of sand like this with a crisscross. And you can see high spots and low spots. So all I'm doing again is dragging over this real lightly. I'm not starting to do any real work yet. I'm just showing you. I can see much better with my naked eye than you can. These darker spots, that's low spots, or places that the paper I haven't got to yet. Little waves. It's hard to see. You can see where I hit it really high right here, and there's kind of a dark spot right here. That's why people use guide coat. Now here's some pinholes. I'm gonna wind up having to fill these with some polyester putty. I don't use the red stuff. I mentioned that before. Don't use that red stuff. In a little squeeze tube, it shrinks. Where's my can of glazing putty? I think I put it up in. It's not out here. I keep it in the house during the winter because it gets cold in my shop, and it's probably been in there since last winter. I haven't done any body work all summer. Anyway, it's I think it's 3M. No, that don't sound right. I'll get the can and show it to you when I get it out. Anyway, but it's two-part. It's in a can. And you mix it with hardener, just like filler, but it's glazing putty. We call it glazing putty. I guess the real name they want you to use is polyester putty, but something. Anyway, I'll have to fill these. Guide coat. So they spray guide coat on, and it shows you, and I'll try to do some guide coat spots. I don't use guide coat all the time. I can see highs and lows. I mean, it's very visible where you're low, where you're high. Guide coat does help. I have used it, especially on like doors and big areas and stuff. What I don't use is spray paint for guide coat because it gums your paint up. It gums your paper up. People tell you it don't. In my experience, it gums your paint up. If you want to do it the right way, buy some actual guide coat. That's Sim guide coat. That's just my little rant about guide coat. Don't use spray paint for guide coat. Just don't do it. I mean, get the real stuff. There's YouTubers. Well, we won't go there. Anyhow, let me get set up and we'll do some actual block sanding. Then I'll cut the music on and just kind of go with it. This is boring to watch. So, yeah. Tell you what, let me try to get the camera in a better angle, because you can't see diddly squat that I'm doing, and I know that. So hold on. I'm still not sure how good you can see that. I'm trying to look at it, and it's hard to tell. So I'm starting over here. Like I said, I'm using crisscross. Now the reason I cut through up here, because I only lightly sprayed this with primer. The main thing I want to be doing right now is blocking my filler, which is over here. Let me get my smaller block, because I already can tell I'm getting it. Use a small block over in this corner. It fits better. You see where the black cut through a little bit. Well, you can't see that. Dadgummit. Well, just trust me. Let me try to move the camera. I'll just zoom out. So I cut through the black a little bit again right there. I cut through the primer. My bodywork area was right here, and then down in this corner. And what I normally do, well, the way I do it, I prime and block my filler areas first. So this area over here didn't really have any filler in it. Here it did, but here did not. So I put a little, I put a coat of primer on that because I was wanting to use up what I had left in my gun. But it wasn't really a full wet coat. That's why I cut through it pretty quick. But anyway, I prime and block my areas where filler is first. Then when I get that done, depending on how they turned out, I either prime just those areas again and block them again, or move on to the whole panel if my bodywork is good and straight. It just depends. Sometimes you get it in one blocking, sometimes you don't. Again, I'm not using guide coat on this because I can see what I'm doing. I can see high spots and low spots in the primer. It's very obvious because you have dark spots that show up if they're low. So that looks pretty good for that. I got to sand down into this corner, which you can't see. While I'm here, I'm going to block down into there. So I'm using the front of my block with, like I said, leave the sandpaper hanging over, and you can roll it back, and you can block with this edge too, which is what I'm doing down in this corner. Okay, so anyway, I showed that. So this area right here is blocked pretty well. I usually cut it down pretty strong just to make sure I've got it cut down. You can put too much primer on one, especially this thicker stuff that we use nowadays. It goes on, you can really put it on thick if you want to. And there's no reason to make it any thicker than you have to. So I've cut down just about into my filler here. or I am cutting into my filler. So I don't want to go a whole lot more. It feels good. It's good. There's that movie quote again. So while I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and hit this. I'm blocking back. I block everywhere I can. Every square inch just about needs to be blocked at some point. So I'm blocking in the back edge too. Down here under where the windshield would be, because you certainly will be able to see it. All this area needs to be blocked. So now I'm working over into this next area that's got filler in it. Let me finish. You can see sand scratches in the primer. You can see it. You can see everything really if you look. Guide coat is good, and I like guide coat, but certainly don't have to use it for everything because I don't need to. Let me move out of here, get on over into here where you can see good. So, over here, let me change the camera a little bit. Let's see. Alright, so there's some actual filler work in here. Alright, so back to this block again. Now I've got to be careful because I got a hump that starts rising up right here. I don't want to cut into this and gouge it. So we just start blocking here. I'll try to, not sure how good you can see. Alright, see the dark spot? That's a low spot so far. That's why we block. We're going to block this level, block this out level. This paper is tearing and it's starting to irritate me. I got to be careful digging in. I done dug in right there. We got a little bit of low spot out here. So we just keep blocking. When I get up into here, I'm going to switch to this smaller block because I can get it into here and not gouge into my primer nearly as bad with that bigger block. Some people get those form-fitting blocks that that they can curve over, and if you want to use those, that's fine. Normally, I don't have a set of those. I've never really done that. I can use my hand. There's some ways I can show you. I'll probably get somebody telling me it's wrong not to use them. Whatever, that's fine. We just keep going. Okay. I think you can see this. I don't know if you can or not. Let me get the camera in case you can't see it. Well, here's a high spot, that's bare metal. There's a high spot in the filler. Here's a low spot in the filler. See how it's still dark gray? We got sand scratches right here. See how they're still dark? Another high spot in the metal. So we just gotta work all this down. We just keep blocking and keep working. But you can see it, I think. So we just keep blocking. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just shut up and cut the music on this block, because you're gonna get bored real quick. So we just keep going. Okay, I had the dash blocked. You can see at the little high spot I told you about, I knocked it down. Everything else came out really well. Little pinholes I was telling you about, there's some right there and right there. I got to fill those with some putty, and I'll show that before I prime. Everything else looks really good. A couple things I want to point out that's really important. You have to sand every nook and cranny. If you don't, especially when you're priming and blocking, let's say I don't sand down in this valley right here, and especially if I don't sand these corners right here, every layer of primer I put on, if I don't sand that stuff builds up and builds up and builds up. And this primer's thick. It goes on thick, and if you spray it on thick, it really goes on thick. So it's really important. You got to sand down in all the corners and the little grooves. I sanded down in here on this one. I even blocked in behind my windshield, and there's a good reason for that. You can see down in here. See all the little chicken pot looking things? That's pinholes that's rust pinholes. Now, they're pretty shallow, but they were in there. There's some pretty good ones over here. See all the little gray spots? That's where primer went in there and filled them in, mostly. They're probably 80% filled in. I could go in there and white filler on that. But if I was going to do it, I probably should have done it ahead of time before I started priming. But I'm pretty sure they'll block out. They're almost full now. There's a couple, like one right here is kind of deep. And there's one over here, right there, that's kind of deep. And there's another one on this other side over here. Let's see, right there that's really deep. I'm probably going to wind up filling that one with some putty. That's really deep. But see those places like that, if you didn't get in there and block, number one, you wouldn't really know they were there, at least you knew that ahead of time, which I did know it ahead of time. But it's really important to get in there and block all that. This corner up in here, I purposely sprayed primer in here on purpose because I knew that this was bare metal from where I'd sanded it. But if I primed in here and didn't prime and didn't sand up here every time, this is going to keep building up. Same thing for over there. So I sanded that down. This needed a little bit of blocking anyway. You can see where I had some scratches and some wavies right there that I blocked out. This side over here is a little bit straighter. I was going to take this off when I spray my next coat of primer, but I'm going to go ahead and prime it one more time and reblock it again, especially on this one. So now that this part is blocked, I got a block inside the dash. All this in here, and this is going to be tedious and slow going. So anyway, I'll set the camera up for a little while, and fast forward it probably. But this is going to be mind-numbingly boring. But there's probably, there's probably some of y'all that want to see this. So just hang on. this blocking. You saw me, I blocked this with this flat pad like this because it was, you really can't do it like this because it won't fit. Plus this dash has got that inner curve. You really can't block it flat. So blocking vertical like this, it certainly works. You got to be careful. I blocked it till, I guess one of the questions people might be asking is how do you know when to stop? And the obvious answer is the asshole answer, when it's straight. Now that's an asshole answer, I realize that. But that is the actual answer, when it's straight. But how do you know when it's straight is the thing. If you're just starting out, you know, you got no experience, you're going to have to practice and learn. You're going to have to learn to feel with your hands. More importantly, you've got to be able to learn to read what the signs are telling you. Now, I mentioned in other videos about standing, I can see high spots and low spots. I can see feather edges. Let me get the camera in here, and I'll show you in a moment. Before I do that, I mentioned earlier about people using odd-shaped blocks. You can take sandpaper and roll it up like, you know, I did a while ago. Made it into a little cone. That's a mini block. It's got enough layers there that it's pretty straight. And especially if you use it with two hands and keep it straight, that's a block. You may disagree with me, that's fine, but I'm telling you, you can sand flat with stuff with that. I got down in this crease, that was a little block. I got up in this corner right here, that's a little block. Even sanding down in here, that's a block. Which I haven't done yet, but I will. So there is ways to do this without all those fancy blocking tools. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, but I don't have them either. I got Dura Blocks and that's it. I've been doing this kind of stuff forever. It works. It's crude, but it's not crude. It works. It just works. All right, let me grab the camera and I'll show you. In this dash, I was standing like this because basically it's the only choice I really had. If I'd have used a block like this dash is not flat. The corners would have dug in. It just wouldn't have been a good way to do it. So I did it with this little Dura Block like this. Which I could have used this one, the same effect. It's just, I like these for small stuff. But anyway, reading the signs, you can see, here's where the primer feathered in. Right there. Here, these are little high spots around the ripple of the dash, which that's normal. Little ripples in the dash right there, little high spot here in the ripple. There's where I filled in, little primer showed up. And then here especially, see that dark gray line? Hold on. See that? Well, that's worse. See that dark gray line right there? That's where the primer primer's a little, or the filler's a little bit low. And the primer went in there and tailed off. I made that little line right there. So that's a little low spot. But I blocked it out. 90% of that, maybe 95% of that is now blocked out. One more round of priming, I'm fixing to sneeze. One more round of priming and blocking is going to fix that. It's fixed now, pretty much. You know, the filler starts to show through. That's kind of when I stop. I sand till basically the filler starts to show on my first blocking. That's a little low spot right there. See that little line? But I blocked it out. Little high spot right there. But it's all blocked out. I can look at it and just tell it's straight. Of course, and I can feel it with my hand, of course, and tell it's straight. Under here, these curved spots are weird. You know, they're hard to do. But this is straight. It's got a little burble. Well, it looks like a bubble here and there, but it's not. It's just where I sanded through the primer. I was priming very gently under here, trying not to run it and cram it up in this hole, in this corner, which I would have if I just crammed that primer up in there. It'd have been a, you know, big old mountain mess of primer, which is not what I wanted to have. So now I'll just continue blocking. I got to block all the way across the front. I got to block this. But I'm gonna cut the camera off. You see enough blocking of this, but that's straight. One more priming, and I'm gonna block this again, just because that's a little bit. That's enough. That's enough rippleness, if that's a word. That I want to block that one more time before I say it straight. So there's one more block in here for sure. The dash, I don't guess I mentioned, dash is pretty darn straight. But I'm gonna block it one more time anyway, just to be safe. So anyhow, let me I'll block the rest of this out, and I'll come back when it's time to show some more stuff. All right, firewall is blocked. There's the areas where I welded and did some repairs. That's blocked. You can see there's a little bit of filler here, a little bit of filler here. I filled a few pinholes down in the corners. And I blocked this area over here. The reason this is showing just a tick high because I blocked it down some more. I tried to get it, blocked it down as much as I could. There is a little ripple right here, but it's more of a factory ripple, so I wasn't about to try to fix it. I mean, I just didn't. So those are blocked. Those are blocked. I blocked had some really bad rust pinholes. That light's on. So had some really bad rust pinholes in here. I blocked those out. Same thing to here. All that's blocked. I think I've already shown you this. Dash is blocked. That's blocked. I found another dent when I was blocking in the cab. Right there, which is common. It was very small, so there's a lot of times you don't see them all till you start blocking. I mean, it happens. You try not to let it happen, but it happens. So I fixed that little dent right there. Put a small amount of filler in right here. There was a little ripple, just a tiny little ripple right there. Nothing major. So we're about to spray primer, and this time I'm gonna spray all of it. You try to get your first block, and you try to get everything straight. Obviously, you try to get it straight every time, but the hope is on your first block and you get it straight. And I'm 95% there. Got a couple places I want to block again just to make sure they're good and straight. So I'm going to go ahead and prime everything now with the intention of blocking with 320. My next blocking, and hopefully that'll be the last true straightening blocking, if you want to call it that. So anyway, let's get some primer, start spraying. For those who don't know, who aren't, who don't prime or haven't primed or even painted, these paint molecules or droplets, when they get in the air, can really travel. Overspray is a thing for sure, so I'm trying to be careful with my camera. Hopefully I got it back far enough where I don't overspray it. I think I'm pretty good because I won't be spraying this way at the camera. But I could stand here with a gun and just paint that camera from here, no problem. So I got to be really careful with my camera. So anyway, let's spray some primer. one thing I will say, I just bought one of those new style guns. They're new to me. They've been out for a long time. I've used the traditional, siphon feed guns for everything I've done up till this project here. Let me see something. So I'm still getting used to those, the HVLP or whatever they call them, guns. They will put out a lot of paint for sure. With that primer especially, because with traditional gun, siphon feed, the thicker primers, they have a hard time pulling that primer with a regular size cup and needle and all that, not cup, but needle and stuff. Anyway, I'm still getting used to using that new style gun, so I may hope that didn't put any runs in that primer. There is a fluid feed setting on that gun, but with my conventional guns, I never use it. I always feather it with the trigger. I can do it with this gun. It's going to take some practice to get used to it. Anyway, let's move the camera.
shit. Alright, that's one coat down.
That's one coat down. I'm just kind of looking for runs here. I'm still, like I said, I'm still getting used to that gun. It definitely will throw the primer out. More so than my conventional would. I don't have that primer mixed. You know, you can mix it different thicknesses. I don't have it mixed really thick. I got it kind of in between. And also dawned on me as I was playing, a lot of y'all, especially younger people that are watching this. Hold on, not that one. I've probably never used one of these. This is your conventional, this is your JGA. This was the gold standard back in the day. I painted hundreds of cars with this gun. I've got two of these. Actually, I got three. Two of these and the one I used to use for priming. I painted a lot of cars with this gun back in the day, and so was everybody else before the newfangled kind came out, which are not new anymore. They're new to me because I just now made the switch over. I'm debating whether to use that gun to paint this thing because I'm a little bit scared to change over, frankly, on a paint job. I'm debating whether to use that gun on painting this thing. I'm a little scared to change over on a paint job. I need to make the change, and I guess I probably will, but I'm still a little bit worried about it. Yeah, that's one coat down. Let that flash a couple of minutes and I'll prime it again. So you've seen enough of that. So that's all for now. Alright, that's round 2 of priming done. So I got the firewall primed. There's a couple places I put it on kind of heavy. Like right here, that spot I got to block. It's got a little sag in it, but it's nothing terrible. It'll block right out. And I got a nice little friend captured right here. Anyway, firewall primed. I got the upper cowl primed. Excuse me. I got the upper cowl primed. All the vents up here is primed. This everything. Yeah. Everything out here is primed, and that will be blocked with 320. Now I may have to switch to 180 on a couple of spots like this. We'll see. But the majority of this is next blocking is going to be 320, and that's either one more blocking to go, or if it blocks real nice, this will be the last block sanding for the firewall. The cab and the dash, more likely it's got 2 more blockings coming. Let me change the light. Hold on here. More than likely, the upper surface of the dash, for sure, will get blocked twice more. It's very possible that the inner side of the dash, all the curves and in here, except for that spot I had to fix right over here, this may be the last blocking, including the jam part that I fixed. Because these are pretty straight already. It's just a matter now of getting the 180 scratches out with a 320. And that should happen in just one blocking. I'm going to block this, I think, twice more just to ensure it's straight, because that's the dash. You're going to see it. It's right. I mean, it's front and center. I'm going to paint it with paint, so you're going to certainly see it. I had ideas of putting the dash cover on, but those things are expensive. I could make my own, and I may still make my own, but for now I'm going to paint it, and then we'll move forward from there later. So this spot's got to be blocked, and this spot. So I'm thinking this is the last blocking with 320 for everything in the cab here, except the upper part of the dash. I'll probably block it twice more, just because that's how I normally do. I normally block with 180 once and then 320 twice, just to make absolutely sure everything is straight, all the sand scratches are out, so on and so on. So firewall obviously has got to be blocked. Lots of sanding to go. If you don't like sanding, don't do body work. That's my advice. I will be scuffing all this at some point, all the jams and priming them. I'll be scuffing and priming around the back window because it's going to be painted. All the jams, and, you know, around the door openings and the jams, all got to be painted, primed and painted. All this out here, all the outer cowl. Thank you, words are hard. All the outer cowls got to be primed and at least sanded or blocked once or twice. And then once I get all that sanding done and all this done, then I can put it on the rotisserie, turn it upside down, and do the bottom. I'm figuring I got 2 more weeks worth of work based on how many hours I get to work on it every day, which is only a few hours a day. And then on weekends, when I can squeeze in on weekends. So the next project to do, other than sanding, the last fabrication project we got to do, or I had to do, is finish my seat belts. We all see, I remember I put the bolt in for the upper retractor doodad thingy. I got to mount the bottom pieces down here in the bottom. I originally was going to reuse this hole, which is the original seat belt hole, but I want to mount the retractor and the belt itself. They're over here. I can't get to them at the moment. I want to mount them up here. So my plan at the moment, that's glare. My plan at the moment is to cut out this section right here, like I kind of did up there. Weld in some plates as reinforcements with the nuts welded to them, and then weld that back in. So that's I think, knock on metal here, knock on wood, my hard head, something. That's the last fabrication I have to do for the cab. I still have to weld in the bolts for my seat belt brackets that I made many years ago that I never bolt welded in because I got to do it from the bottom. And I've got bolts here I got to weld in for my console, future console, from the bottom. But other than that, I think all the fabrication is done. I do have to weld up a hole that I forget about. That's the original hole from one of the previous owners. I got to weld that hole up. That's no big. You just got to do it. And a little drilled hole right there. So fabrication is just about done. That's a beautiful thing. So I may be painting this truck in 3 weekends ish, sometime middle of October maybe. I've still got all the, like I said, I got all the priming and the blocking to do, and then wet sanding. Then I'm going to spray lizard skin on the floor, the firewall, inside the roof, and I guess as much of the back of the cab and the back of the cab. I'm going to do both kinds. There's a ceramic insulation for heat and a sound deadening insulation, and I'm going to use both of those. So that takes time too. So anyway, that's it for now. So as usual, thanks for looking in. Thanks for being here. I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing, checking out what I'm doing. I'm starting to get some views on YouTube. I didn't really know if I was going to get any or not. I'm getting a handful here and there. So to those of you that are doing that, thank you. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, your wives, your husbands, your ex-wives, all that good stuff. Tell everybody. If you like it, do the like thing. I guess comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Smash all the buttons. Do all the stuff you're supposed to do, all the YouTube things. And as usual, thank you, and I will catch you on the next time. Y'all come back now, you hear?